My name is Jeffrey. I was born in New York, Ithaca. I grew up in China though, so my parents, my sister, and I went back to China when I was still a little baby. We lived there for a long time, so I was raised there. And when I was about 15, I moved back to the States. I've always had a passion in science. My father is a scientist. He is a microbiologist. And ever since when I was younger, I remember my father, he would take me to his lab over the weekends. I learned how to pipette, liquids from one thing to another, how to raise pure germ cultures. I even learned what is a PCR. I just love it since then, and I I don't think I can stop anymore. Right after I started in BYU, I visited Dr. Bridgewater. I asked her if her lab needed someone who can wash dishes. And she said, well, we don't really particularly need someone who just to clean glassware, but what are you familiar with? So I told her what I'm familiar with, that I did DNA isolation, I work with germ-free lab animals, I worked with all these things when I was an intern for my dad's lab, and she said that's exactly the type of people we need. That's how I joined the research lab on campus, and since then I had my own research ideas. So my current research is a little bit complicated, but to put it in simple words, my father, his lab has discovered a bacteria can cause obesity and other chronic illnesses when it's in humans' gut. So I was in my just basic Bio class last semester, and the professor was talking about a particular thing called phage. It is a kind of virus that only attacks bacteria, but not human cells. So I just thought, what if we could find a bacteriophage that will attack these pathogenic bacteria that live in our gut, that cause us to gain weight, that cause us to develop all these chronic illnesses, so that we can help people to, gain better health. So right now we're still in the preliminary stage of isolating phage and working with some other bacteria that are a close relative to the bacteria that we want to eventually work with. We want to just get some experience in doing these type of things before we do the actual experiment. Sometimes it is hard to be a scientist. There's a big difference between your hypothesis and to actually prove it. You have to use evidence, you have to use logic, you have to use a scientific method, produce the right results and data. But there are also many other times where things don't work out, and it's really frustrating because you think that you're doing everything right, and it just doesn't work for some reason. And the only way to find out is to do it again. What helped me to overcome those times when things do get very mundane, I think about my purpose. I think about my goal as doing this project. Whenever I'm just focusing on myself, I think, I just want to finish this project, get a paper published so I could be accepted into a good graduate school, then it becomes really hard for me to continue. But whenever I think about those people who had inspired me to become a scientist, for some reason I could always go on. I could always say to myself, let me do it one more time.